Hey everyone, I'm Lavanya from Testsigma, and thank you for joining us today as we talk about supercharging QA teams and some tips for managing them. But not just that, this is going to be an interactive AMA discussion. And to make sure that we are helping you as best as possible, we have a chat box to source all your testing queries. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to the guest, Seema Prabhu, head of QA now at MotorK. Seema is highly acclaimed by the community for her testing expertise and helping attitude. And she has been a software test professional for over a decade with a wealth of experience in testing and agile transformation projects. And she loves to talk about the human side of testing. And she also speaks at various meetups and loves to share her knowledge. She's also a great mentor and loves to give good advice on topics in and out of testing. So, okay, Seema, so shall we kick off the discussion now?
Sure, sure. Thank you
Okay,
for the lovely introduction. How are you, Lavanya?
okay. I'm doing good. And thank you everyone once again for joining. Um, being a head of QA, like what's your typical work day like? Can you walk us through?
Sure. Every day is different, I would say. There's no typical day as such. I can talk about a typical week. And a typical week looks like lots of meetings and responding to emails, interviewing, shortlisting candidates, looking at various test strategies, ways of working, um, working with the team members, a lot of one-to-ones, which is very important. Then I do attend all the sprint planning or the sprint reviews, the demos, working on KPI metrics. So a lot of people meeting and talking happens during the day, and at the end of the day, it's more like uh, processing all the information that you've got from the day and then be ready for the next.
Okay. So, being the head of QA, like what are your top responsibilities like?
First of all, first and foremost, I would say it's defining the QA strategy, the
Mhm.
approach and how it's going to be executed, and also being responsible for the QA team. So it's leading the team, and that also means making sure I have the right people and the right teams doing the right things. Um, and sometimes also being hands-on where it's required. I also help and support the engineering managers to ensure all the deliveries have good quality releases, provide direction about the coverage, work with individual team members to understand their problems that they're facing and help them or facilitate as much as possible. Identifying tools, doing proof of concepts, identifying training, what is needed, and also not just getting the tools, but making sure the tools are used effectively and processes are working, and also continuous improvement.
Mhm. Yeah. Just as a follow-up question, like Brajesh is asking, like how hands do you need to be? Like how do you manage that alongside engineering and people management?
You mean hands-on?
Yeah.
Um, People management is important, but I do like being hands-on as well. And yes, time doesn't permit many times, but where possible, I do prioritize. And then being hands-on is important because you're also demonstrating to your team that you're able to do, you know what you're talking, and they also learn from it. And you're learning what works and doesn't work hands-on with your team members as well. So it is important for me, at least I like being hands-on where possible. It's getting less and less these days, but I still do. I still randomly open the applications and test, spend time testing, ask questions, look at the test scripts, and then see if I can execute it and understand what is being written. Um, yeah, it's important.
Mhm. Yeah. So, Asima, you're heading the QA function of a growing, like a fast-growing company. So this can be challenging, especially when you have when you're like growing. when you're a growing company. So can you share some tips like how you shaped the team as it was scaling?
Right. So as the team was scaling, first of all, you need to understand what is the problem that you're trying to solve. Yes, we are looking for testing, we're looking at quality, but what is the problem that you're trying to solve? And do you have the right people in place? So as new team members join the team dynamics changes. The way the processes that were set up for no team or one or two teams changes slightly, and as the team becomes four or eight. So there needs to be this continuous improvement, and also the existing team members, the dynamics between them changes even when a new person joins or when a person leaves the team. So that's something you need to constantly looking at the evolution of what changes
Mhm.
and how it changes. uh, when you start off with no zero or one or two at the beginning, what happens is you put in processes that will make it work with that many testers in the team. But as the team grows, there will be changes in the process as well. So that's another thing you need to be looking at, the continuous improvement of processes, what needs to change at what stages, and who can be responsible. You can't be responsible for everything. That's when delegation happens. There should be team expertise. There needs to be someone who will take ownership of certain aspects, and grow the team as they grow. They need to grow as well. It's not just you doing something, it's the team that needs to grow as well.
Mhm.
And this is how you start scaling the teams. Having the right people matters, and right people, I'm not saying just having only experts. You don't need all experts in the team. You need to have a good balance between experts and um, juniors and middle level testers. So that there needs to be this range so that there's constant learning and creativity going on between the team.
Mhm. Okay. So, what difference, like now, do you see managing a remote team versus a team which is working from office? Like, do you see a difference at all?
Yes, there is a difference. So when you're when you're managing a team that is co-located in one place, you're meeting them in person. So what happens is you can read the room, you can understand the energy levels of the person that you're working
Mm.
with. You can see their body language. You can understand from their tone of voice or their behaviors, and there's subtle nuances that you can understand, which from which you can derive what's happening. Whereas when it now that it's all become remote, it's more of you've lost body language to some extent. You can see the person if they're on video, but if you're not, then that's also lost. I don't see a lot of people right now, so that's the loss of one part of
Right.
communicating, right? I can't see the energy levels. How
Mhm.
are they feeling down? Are they feeling okay? Are they feeling good? Are they hyped up about what they want to do? Are they um, so that's also lost, and it depend. And when there is silence, we start getting uncomfortable,
Right.
or if there is a lack of attention, you may not notice it or you may not understand it. So there is a study, right, that was done, which says in communication 55% is body language. It's just 38% which is voice, and 7% is what you speak. So I can hear what others are saying, or you can
Mm.
hear me, but that's just 7% of what communication is. It's also the tone of voice, which you can hear, but 55% is lost if you don't see the person and if you're not around. So when you're managing remote teams, you need to be conscious about building that relation with people, making sure that the gap in the communication quality should be different, and there should be an extra effort put in. Another thing is, now that we're not just remote, we're also distributed, which means we are working alongside people from various cultures, different time zones, and also working from home is isolating sometimes, which I do find,
Mhm.
and many others find it as well. And you have other things going on in the house. Working from home is not everything perfect. There are other things in the house. There might be kids in the house, or parents, or family members, and you can get distracted. So that safety, psychological safety, should be there, where team members are ready to say what's going on in their life, so that you can be accommodating of it. And that comes only when you've built enough trust with the people in the team.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's connecting more often, doing more one-to-ones, understanding what drives them, what interests them, um, and yeah, greeting them, speaking regularly with them, even in Slack channels, if not on video. Video sometimes gets too much. So even if it's
Right.
just audio or messaging, asking how are you,
Mm.
makes a big difference. So yeah, that's mostly about remote. And yeah, set expectations right. I would say set your expectations right, and ways of communication. That way, you both understand what's the expectation, and I can work around it.
Right. So Rahul adds that isn't frequent silence a clue about the team's morale or energy?
It is. So the silence is not something we should be scared of, but we are. Whenever there is silence, we tend to just say a bad joke, or um, it gets very uncomfortable and airy in the
Right.
meeting.
Yeah.
So it's not, see, there's every emotion has something that you can learn from. It's not all bad. So when there is silence, yes, one part of it could mean that no one is ready to talk to each other, which means there's no glue between them, there's nothing common between them. It can be one of the things, or it can be everyone's busy in their own work and just want to get on with what they're doing.
Right.
Or it also can be for someone who's watching. If you can see, then you can see what is, if a person, for example, if there's someone who speaks all the time and is silent, then that's an alarm that should go off, saying something's not right here. And
Mm.
that's the time you start catching up with this person, try and see what is bothering them, what's not working. um, but there are times where I can be silent when I want to focus and I don't want to be distracted, but there's too many meetings happening, and you become silent. But again, that's comes down to talking about it and making sure what's not working. So silence is information. It
Yeah.
teaches you a lot.
Right. So in okay, British also has the same question. Like, how do you encourage participation in such situation in remote teams and make their ideas supported and encouraged?
Uh, yeah, like I said, that's when you need to have that psychological safety, and you need to have built the trust. So you can't expect trust to be built at that point the when you want it to happen. It's built over time, when you've regularly interacted with your team members, regularly made the team come together. So it's not just a manager to the team member, it's also about team members between themselves helping each other, working with each other, and being there for each other. So you need to promote that, make sure um, they come together as a team and not working as individuals in isolation. And that helps. Um, and it's not always about work. You don't have to have strict boundaries about this is the only thing that we do. What you can also do is have casual conversations, team building activities. I do some of these with my team regularly, where we just have some time where team building doesn't have to be going out somewhere. You can do it on
Mhm.
over remotely as well, or just coffee sessions, maybe just to catch up with how's life going, what hobbies do you have, what's going on in life, and
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's built over time. It can't happen in one day.
Right. So, what process do you use to, like stay in touch and follow up with the remote work? So, is there a process that you've set up?
Um, there some are processes, some are more, yeah, some processes like team meetings, and have different team meetings where one is about catching up with what's happening in your teams. Let's understand that, and sharing what each one has done. They share what automation work they've done, what kind of testing they're doing, what products they're working on, or what new tool they found or interested in, and they want to share something. So that's more about work only. And then we have team meetings, which are more about team building, where we talk about variety of things that is not exactly testing but can be related to testing. It can be about communication, how to improve it, and it can be about um, asking questions. How do you ask the right questions, or uh, just variety of talk about heuristics. We talk about, and it always comes with stories. This happened, and this is how I experienced it. For example, we were talking about Dunning-Kruger effect, and then someone said, I was working on this, and I didn't know how to write code, and this is how it happened. I can relate to the story you're saying. Then someone else talks about their experience, and we share those as well. So have separate meeting for those kind of discussions. Then we have individual tribe meetings as well, where we talk about what's working, what's not working for us. Um, and we meet regularly, and Slack as well. It's not just about work progress. It's about other wins as well. If they've done something really nice, if they're going out on a holiday, where are they going? What are they doing? We talk about countries where they come from, and they talk about the food that is really nice. Someone is from Brazil, so we was talking about the food, it is, and where in South America he's traveled, and what it is, life is like there. So it's nice to understand those things as well, and that's what I do.
Great. So, do you have regular stand-up, Seema? Like, are they daily? Are they long or short? Like, do you have any tips for a productive stand-up meeting?
QA chapter, there is no stand up. There
Okay.
is no regular stand up or a stand up. We just have team meetings. Um, we have team individual tribe meetings
Right.
every alternate week, and we have the whole QA chapter coming together every month. But individual stand-ups are more for the sprint that they're working on, and they are the quality advocates for the sprint that they're working on. So that means they will work with the engineers and the product managers to make sure everything is tested, and they are able to do what the work that they have to do. If there are any problems, we have team leads who will take a look, and if that doesn't work, then it comes to me. Um, so on a day-to-day basis, I don't micromanage anybody.
Okay. So, how do you track the productivity of your team members, especially when they're working remote? So, do you have a one-on-one in between, or how does that work?
I Like I said, apart from the team meetings and the tribe-specific QA chapter meetings that we
Mhm.
have, I do have one-to-ones with my direct reports where there are no team leads. I have that every week, but that one-to-one um, is more, the agenda is set by the team. It's not what I want to tell them.
Okay.
So it's about what they want to tell me, whatever they want to share with me, and we can talk about objectives, career. What are they interested in? What are the problems that they're facing? What's working well? What's not working well? And sometimes they don't want to talk about it. That's also fine. We just talk
Mhm.
about how was your weekend.
Right.
So that one-to-one I have with my direct reports, and my indirect reports, I still meet them, but I meet them not every week, but every either alternate or once in 3 weeks. That just gives me one, I get to know them better because eventually they are part of my team. And also I understand what are they working on, and more deeper into the sprints, that I get a feeling of what's going on well or not.
Okay. So this is a burning question. It's like a nation wants to know question. So
Wow, okay.
we have received this question multiple times. So how do you solve conflicts between the QA dev? So do you come across any, or have you resolved them, or been in a situation yourself?
Okay. Yes, I have been. I have been in such situations where it's not gone the smoothest way I would have wanted it to be. In general, I get along well with most people, so it is fine. And I think earlier on in my career, what worked was I had really good senior developers and architects who always were ready to help and explain, and that always helped me. So when I did come across a situation where someone was not ready to help, or was always pointing, saying, QAs, your bugs are not clear, you're not doing this right, you haven't even checked this, you don't set this up properly, and you come raise a bug, when it's not even a bug. So things
Mhm.
like that happen. That's okay. But what I've learned over the period of time is ask your questions when things like that go wrong. Don't get defensive about it, because it's not about you. It's not about the QA or what you are doing as a tester. It comes down to two people talking to each other. It's never a personal. So don't get defensive about it, but ask questions from curiosity. So what I started doing was, when I was told this is not right and that is why are you raising a bug? It's not even clear properly. I'm like, okay, can you explain what is not clear so that next time I can be better?
Mhm.
Or if I'm told, oh, you didn't even set this up properly and the configuration was not correct, and you've been raising bugs about it. Fair enough, I missed it. If you can next time put what needs to be done in a comment, maybe I'll be more aware. I wasn't aware about it. I'm really sorry. Helps. It just instantly changes the way you're talking, and the connection that you're having with the developers, and get away from the mindset it's QA versus dev. Or, it's not versus, it's QA and dev. We're there together. We're there for a same goal. We both want to develop something and to release something for the end user with quality. We're not
Mhm.
there to fight against each other. We're not competing against each other. We're working for the same thing.
Right.
And both our success is when customers lose without any issues. And if that happens, it's win-win for both of us. And when something doesn't work, it's loss for both of us.
Right.
So
Right.
if we are on the same boat, why are we fighting against each other? Let's work together. And yeah, there. I think one of the times what happened, I was in a similar situation where uh, I was told this is not right and that is not right. And like I said, I was like, fair enough. Give me the details. I will learn and I'll do it. But also, there were times when I was like, um, I, I said, look, I've had a bad day. Maybe my child was sick, or I've not been able to concentrate. Yes, it's a mistake. I'm sorry about it. And that also helped something shift. And the person was then more understanding of the situation I was in. And I think we started talking, and not just about work, and that building connections between uh, developers then helps, and ask them out of curiosity, saying, how do you do this? And how does this work? I want to know more about it. Not from the point of, I want to point the problems that you're doing. It's not my success when I raise 10, 15 bugs. It's more about, I'd like to understand what's happening so that I can do my work to the best of my ability. And being understanding of that, I think, helps.
But this is, we see a lot of memes and jokes around developers and testers, right? So this is something that is around, and it's a little, it's like almost like a blame game that happens. So according to you, honest conversations are important to resolve these conflicts. So Prajesh says, what are some of your tips for honest communication? Do you have to be open to your developers? Is that what you mean? Suggest?
Yeah, see, first of all, I don't agree with those memes because they're just
Okay.
spoiling the environment when such memes come. It sometimes a joke is nice, but there's a thin line between a joke and what information you're telling other people. And when you see the same thing more often, that is what you catch on with, and that
Correct.
is
Yeah.
what starts affecting. Because when if you keep repeatedly seeing such memes of QA versus dev, QA versus dev, that's what you have in your mind, and that when you go to work, that's how you start feeling as well.
Right.
So stay away from it if you can. Um, and what can you do about it? Like the example I gave, just one, be honest about it. If you think, don't get defensive. Like I said, it's nothing personal.
Mhm.
Developers are not doing it. They'll move from one project to another, just like you will move from one project to another. So and they're not, developers are, creating something. They're like painting something, and they put in all their efforts, they plan really well, they put in all the efforts to build it, and then we as testers come and give them the bad news. Oh, this is not right. Oh, this color
Right.
should have been different. Oh, that's not working. It's like we bring in bad news that hurts. I've learned that it hurts when I started writing automation tests, and the test itself was wrong, or test itself was failing. It wasn't catching bugs, or someone who was reviewing my tests was pointing at mistakes that I was doing. That's when you understand. You put yourself in the developer's shoes and think, how do they feel about it? Then you'll understand how it is. So try to build that. It's not never QA versus dev. Think about it as QA and dev, and it'll work.
Right. But isn't this also the case that you raise a bug and then the developer closes it without even reaching out to you, adding a comment? We only come to know about it once it's done, the ticket is closed, right? So,
Hmm.
what kind of, what do you think should have happened in that case?
So if it's repeatedly happening, I would say start looking at the data of how often it happens and what kind of tickets happen to be like that. Is it coming only from one person, or is it a team issue? Um, or does it happen regularly? Does it happen for valid bugs or invalid bugs? When is this happening? Start looking at patterns here, and then your retrospectives or in team meetings that you are in, bring it up saying, this is how often it is happening. So the work that we're doing is diminished, and it doesn't add any value. You
Mhm.
might as well not test it if this is how it is, and make them aware of it. And the other one is constantly review what is happening, how many bugs are getting closed like that, and then write back a comment or ask these people, whoever are doing it, the devs, saying, can you add a comment of the reason behind closing it? Or can we have a conversation about this and reopen it, because this is a valid bug. Maybe there was information missing, maybe it was misunderstood, maybe it was not very clear. It could be multiple reasons. So then try and understand the root causes of why this behavior is happening often.
Mhm. Right. So, Seema, another question is, like, how do testers make themselves visible and realize their importance? Like, um, how does the entire process need a bit of amending? Like, what can managers do to make sure their work is seen, or to justify their existence in the team?
Hmm.
Like, it need not be always that they may not communicate, but they'd be raising high quality bugs.
Hmm.
So, is there any tips to make these testers visible, and or the managers can help in this situation?
See, testing is not about working in isolation. I cannot sit
Mhm.
in one corner, raise bugs, and say that's my job done. I've raised the bugs, that's it. It's not about that. And this is where it also comes back to QA and dev. You work alongside. So when you do raise bugs, it's not just raise bugs and forget about it. Try and go a little deeper. If there are multiple bugs that you're finding in a similar area or the same area, then try and see if there's a particular reason for that. And then maybe have a conversation with the developer saying, this is what I'm seeing. What do you think about it? And or make your work visible by sharing. Another thing. I have teams where we used to write test cases, we used to test, and when it comes to reviews, we are the backseat. No one was visible. It was just, oh, we've done this, we've done this, we've released this, but it comes from the rest of the team, none from the testers. So what we started doing is every time we did something, we introduced something, we started sharing that in the sprint reviews to show that we exist.
Mhm.
The more you show yourself out, when you appear, when you're visible, when you speak more, that's when your teams accept that you exist. You cannot sit in the background and expect to just exist, right? So automation framework, a lot of times we spend so much time on it, we invest a lot of time and energy in it, and then what do? If we say, oh, it belongs to QA, we run it, we maintain it, we'll do everything about it. But that's why developers don't have no idea what you're doing. And that's where it's needed. You need to start sharing, showing what you're doing, showcase everything that you do, whether it is a new tool, a new framework, even proof of concept for that matter. These are the options that I tried, and I've eventually uh, come to the opinion that this tool works best for this situation, and then open it to the team for their input, and they will feel involved and included in what you're doing. Often what happens is it becomes an island. There's devs and product owners, and then there's QA separately sitting.
Mhm.
um, and this that joining can happen only when you start showing yourself up as well, not just doing the work and sitting quiet about it. Show it more often. And by show, I'm not saying be arrogant about it, or um, not like a show off show, but
Mhm.
showcase what you're doing,
Right.
and involve the developers as well. For example, um, the tester in the team was going on a holiday, and we needed the releases had to continue. So we handed over automation running, looking at the reports to the team. Developers were doing it. There are times when um, first thing in the morning, developers come and look at the automation report to see what was wrong, because they want to know whether the features that they built previous night uh, didn't cause any regression. And that is healthy because that they are involved in it. We have reports of test execution, reports of test automation after it has run. Don't make it just visible to the test team. Let it go into the Slack channel or the team channel where all developers, the whole team is there. Let them see it too. That's when they will realize how much effort is going into it, how much um, uh, what is it that you're doing? That becomes visible. One other thing I would say is even the work that you're doing, make it visible. I see often on Jira boards, you will see features, you will see bugs, but you will not see anything that the test team is doing.
Right.
I hear a lot of things from my team saying, I've done this much automation, but I do it in my free time, and this is what it is. So I'm like, how many know about this? And is your sprint team aware of this? No, it's not on the Jira board. Then how would they know what you're doing and how
Mhm.
much is being done? Uh, so the more tasks that started appearing on the board, developers also start understanding your work needs time, it needs effort,
Right.
and you are involved in something that is beneficial for everyone in the
Mhm.
team.
Right.
So
Okay. So, Seema, we also often hear that it's important to discuss with the dev team and check their code and do some code reviews. Oftentimes, this is difficult, when we are working in sprints. So, what do you suggest?
I wouldn't say check their code, uh, but it's important to be able to read code.
Yeah.
I mean, checking code is part of the code review process, which developer does. And sometimes testers also get involved. I've seen some doing that as well. But it's when a feature comes into testing, a lot of times it's not just what you see and the test cases that you've done. Sometimes looking at the code of how it's written and just able to read that code and understand uh, might give you additional scenarios to think about. What if, oh, this for loop works like this, so let me think about the edge case, will it break or not? So it's not about checking their work. We don't need to check. We are testing, but able to read code to understand how it was built so that we can add scenarios to our tests.
Mhm. Okay, so here's something for newbies in a remote QA team. Like, how can they stand uh, out from the crowd? Like, do they do a lot of reading, researching, discussing the issues, blogging, for example?
First of
Um,
all, gain experience within your team. Try and understand what is it that you're doing. Understand the processes within the team. How does your company or the organization work? How does your team work? What are the processes within? How is QA or test team complementing these processes? What value are we adding? Get a feel for all of it and ask questions if you don't understand. That's one story that you have learned and understood. Then you can start applying it elsewhere in other projects or write about it, or um, go to meetups and discuss with other people so you will understand how it works in other places, and then you can learn what works, what doesn't work, maybe bring in ideas from what you've learned back to your team if there is any problem that you're trying to address. Um, and even within the teams, I would say I've had some really good testers who've joined lately. Within a week of joining, um, they were learning, they were uh, buddying with experienced testers in the team, and they learned something of how to do or how to test, how to set up certain environment to be able to test, and went on straight onto conference and write about it, saying someone else will need it. That's a good starting point. You're learning to write
mhm.
in Confluence. And writing for the team is also like writing a blog, but it's just for a smaller audience. But you're getting into the habit of writing, you're getting into the habit of sharing knowledge, asking questions. Initially, you might raise a lot of bugs which are not really bugs. Don't get disheartened by it. It's okay.
Right.
But with all those bugs that are raised, which may or may not be bugs, you learn something. You learn the right way of doing it. You learn what the product should and shouldn't do, or even probably raise gaps in requirement. You might say, as a user, this is how I saw it when I'm not used to it. Exploratory test it. Um, so all that goes into learning. Nothing that you do goes wasted if you take the learning out of it.
Mhm. So when you're interviewing a candidate and for a QA role, like what are the things that you look for, look in them?
Um, First, they should know what is testing. They should be uh, able to communicate well what they say. I should understand what I say, they should understand. And if you don't
Mhm.
understand, ask a question saying, okay, I'm not clear about what you just asked me. Can you repeat it, or can you explain it a little further? That's okay to ask that. But if you don't know and you just go off in a tangent, then that's the kind of behavior you'll see at work as well. That you will not be asking questions, and that is alert for me. Um, and I like people who learn and grow. And learn and grow doesn't mean just reading books or doing courses. It's also, that's one of the aspects. What's also important is know what you're doing in the first place. Um, understand why you're doing what you're doing, and um, understand what's working and not working, because some companies have a certain way of working. You may not agree with it, but that's what it was. But know what is a better way of working as well, instead of just complaining that doesn't work, this doesn't work. uh, I come across a lot when I'm interviewing a lot of people who are like, this is a test automation framework I've built. uh, why have you built it like this? Or why did you choose that language? Because I know it. That's not a good enough reason why you chose the framework. That shows that there was no thought process behind it. Uh, or questions like, can you explain to me the framework that you had, and how did you run your automated tests? Most often, I'm told it's the structure is this. Why did you have that structure? No answer. It's just like that. That's the reason. Or um, we were running certain tests at certain time. Okay, why did you run those tests? What was the reasoning behind? That was a process. That's why we had to do it. So they didn't take that effort to understand why were you running, what kind of test were you running. Um, that is red alert for me, because you're not even taking the effort to understand what you're doing and why. You're just doing it for the sake of doing. And those are the things I look out for.
Okay, great. What skills do you think are a must for testers? Is it technical, process, tools, people? What's the most essential skill for a tester, according to
For a tester, it's important to know testing.
you? Okay,
First of all, what is it that they're doing and why?
right.
So that's absolutely important. Otherwise, we're losing the purpose there. But then it comes down to, what's the worth in just doing testing and keeping it to myself? You're not working in isolation, and you're not working just for yourself, and you're not going to use the product by yourself. Um, and the bugs that you raise is not, it's for not for your own self either, which means you're working with the team. You should be able to work alongside. You should be able to communicate better. You should be able to negotiate better. You should be able to sell something if you want to sell. Sell as in not sales sell, but
Right.
it's about selling an idea, or selling a process that you want to do, and you want to bring in the developers and the rest of the team, and buy into your idea. That's also important. So there's a variety of skills that are needed um, to be a tester. So you need process. Without process, you're just random and there's chaos. You do need process, and you need to understand what is happening around in the world. Uh, you do need tools and technology, yes. Without that, you are not going to be able to do your work efficiently and effectively. You need to have a very good understanding of testing because that's your job. And but that's not enough. You need more skills that will help you uh, build that relation and communication and collaborate with your team members as well.
Awesome. Seema, an important question. So, do you think QA is an unsafe place to be with no career growth? We see changing titles like QA, STEDs, but we also see that testers move to developer roles and vice versa. But we also see this pattern of QA changing on their roles. So, is it really an unsafe place?
I don't see it as an unsafe place. It depends on what's the reason behind that they're just jumping ship to become product owners, scrum masters, or whatever the other roles that they're going into. If you're not passionate about testing, then and if your skills are right for the um, other jobs that you're looking at, then maybe that's a good thing. So look at yourself and see, do you have the right skills for that job, and then go for it. That's fine. Um, Testing is not unsafe. It has been there, it will be there, and it's always going to be there. But technology changes. The technology that was there 20 years ago is not what it is today, which means developers also had to learn, grow, change. Uh, Architects had to change, and so do testers. So everyone is constantly evolving. In terms of growth, it's not just QAs as well, right? It's even developers. You become a senior developer, you become a principal engineer. Not everyone becomes a principal engineer. Then you can become an engineering manager, but not everyone becomes an engineering manager. Then you can become a director of engineering. How many of the engineering managers become directors of engineering? Not everyone. It's the same for testing as well. The nature of testing has evolved with automation, with AI, with the APIs, IoT, various technologies have come in. So the kind of work that we do has changed. Methodologies changed from waterfall to agile. So the titles changed, or the role that was expected. For example, test manager at one point, it looked like it was not needed at all. Then the trend changed, where it was soon understood that engineering managers are not able to provide the support that testers need in the team, and therefore that role was needed back again. In some places, they are also training engineering managers to be able to support testers. So it depends on the organization how they are structuring it, but it's not going to go away ever. Our responsibilities and role might change, our titles might change, um, but it's about how we grow along with it. How are we evolving along with the rest of the world and the technology landscape changing? That is more important. So QA is not going anywhere. Testing is not going anywhere. We're there forever,
Okay, great.
I think.
Okay. So one last question from our side, and we have a lot of questions to take up. So you've worked with low-code tools too. What is your take on low-code tools, and what do you see different? Should you embrace low-code tools, or do you think it's a sham?
Um, I have used low-code tools, and I am using low-code tools at the moment. So I don't think it's a sham, but low-code tool is not here to replace any coding or coded automation. And low-code tool is not able to do everything. It is not there as a one-off solution that will solve everything. It's not true. Just like there are variety of tools and each tool has its own purpose and its own strengths and weaknesses, there are pros and cons of using low-code tool. Uh, and it depends on how you use it. What is the purpose you're using it? And are you using it for the right problem statement that you're trying to solve? If you look at it from that perspective, then it is very useful. Another thing that I found when we started using low-code tool in one of our teams is that it becomes a learning, stepping to learning coding as well. So low code is mainly abstracting, right? It's abstracted the code behind, and it makes it easier for testers to write author tests really quickly, which is really important. But also gives that little flexibility to write your own code snippets that will extend these tests further. The ability to start writing just code snippets is a little less pressure on testers who are new to coding and have not learned coding and want to step into automation. So at least in my team, they found it very useful to write those little snippets, get a better understanding. They understood the strategy of writing tests and maintaining tests and how it should work. That gave them more confidence and readiness to actually accept writing code in a coded automation tool when required. So I don't think it's a sham, but it's not a one-stop solution for everything. You, just like any other tool, you need to use it where appropriate.
Okay, great. So we have questions from Vardhan and Casey that we'd like to take up. So Vardhan has a lot of questions, so I'll read it to you. What is the key responsibility for a QA, according to you?
Key responsibility is to test and provide information to the team, raise any risks or when something's not working, or an edge case that we've not thought about, or if there's gaps, then inform. So informing the teams of the risk or of what's not working, and yeah, that's mainly what testers should be doing.
Okay, so I'll allow Vardhan to ask the question directly. Vardhan, you can unmute.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hey Seema. Can I go?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So my second question will be, rising the quality bugs doesn't define a QA?
No, it doesn't. It's not number of bugs you raise.
That's what I'm clearly mentioning. Rising the quality bugs. It's not about the just bugs. It's all about the quality bugs. It doesn't define a quality QA.
When you say quality bugs, you mean valid bugs?
Yes.
Okay. If you're raising valid bugs, it doesn't define a QA. It defines that it doesn't define you. It shows that you're good at finding areas that are not working as expected, and you have the right attitude to look and where to look for what. So it is one of the aspects of being a good QA. Yes.
Okay. My other question will be, like, only very good communication skills matter, like without raising the bugs. So someone, like, imagine like we'll be having a good team. So someone will be having like more tech knowledge, and he'll be like having like more good communication skills. So where he can involve and where he can pitch in and where he can suggest the ideas. So he may not able to rise like quality bugs as well, and it will be like less than bugs like who can rise the other QA. So in this case, like which thing comes into the matter? Like only good communication skills matters, or without raising the bugs, or who a guy will be having the good communication skills with raising the bugs matters?
Good question. It depends on the role. I think it depends on what you're. So if you're in the same
In
position,
general,
like
I'm asking Seema.
if you're doing the same thing, then what's the point of just talking if you're not raising bugs because you're not being a tester? And what's the point of raising bugs but you're not communicating it? So both are not adding its full value. But if you're a test manager who's not expected to be hands-on, assuming, and very good at communication, understands how testing happens, but is not really hands-on or hasn't been hands-on, then he may not be raising quality bugs as such, but understands how the process should work, then probably it's okay. But if you're both testers, only communication is useless, as well as only testing and not communicating it is also useless, or it won't add the best value.
Okay,
Does
Seema,
that
got it.
answer?
Yeah, Seema. I have like very last question as well. So
Yeah.
someone is having like very good communication skills, and he's able to raise the quality bugs as well, and is able to get it from the developers as well. So based on the priority matters. So it defines a like good QA.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, these are the questions, Seema, from my end.
All right, thank you.
Thank
you for the
Thank you,
question.
Arvind.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
I'd like to unmute Casey also. He has a couple of questions. Go ahead, Casey.
Hi, Casey.
Hi, Seema. How are you?
Hi. I'm good, thank you.
Like one question: what does a tester need, or what do you look from a tester? You answered a couple of points actually. I just also want to add that the first most important thing is that he need to have some patience. Actually, that's the most important for a tester. So testing requires a lot of patience, and it also needs something like an out-of-box thinker actually. So he or she needs to basically think out of the box and needs to come up with a lot of different scenarios actually. And the most important part is attitude. So attitude is also matters a key role, and it plays a very important role. Sometimes you get offended from developers, product managers, test engineers, and clients. You need to have a lot of patience, and you need to communicate in a proper manner. You should not basically take it too personally, and better to basically do it in a graceful manner. There are times where communication is possible. There are times where communication is not possible. For example, if you have a release for 2 weeks and where you are finding 40 plus defects or bugs, you can't basically communicate each and every bug to the developer. You will basically go and report the bug, maybe with screenshots or screen recordings or some analysis. So communication doesn't mean that you have to go and talk each and every bug.
No.
Discuss.
Communication is not just about talking. Communication can be written, your comments, your
exactly.
Every written thing.
Exactly. I'm about to say the same thing. It's not about you go and talk to the developers, you go and write an email to the developers. It's not that. The way you document the things in the bug report, that is the most important thing actually.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that, Casey. It's true. It's not just about talking. It's not just about going to the developer. It's also about how you write, your written communication as well, and even how you raise a bug. Thank you.
Yes. We have a few more questions, Seema. Would you like to take them?
Sure.
Okay. If anyone has a question, feel free to ping this in the chat or in the QA. So Seema, what do you think about unit testing by testers? Do you have anything to add?
Unit testing shouldn't be by testers. It should be developers doing it. They're testing their code. If they have written what they have built is working correctly or not. So if it's not written by the developer, then something is definitely wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not supposed to be written by testers.
Okay, but and there is active a discussion that testers can contribute. So you think that it shouldn't be an area for the testers, right?
You can contribute in terms of what needs to be tested, or maybe even pair with the developer if you can, and if your organization allows it, that's fine. But separating it out, saying unit testing will be completely written by testers, then no, it doesn't work like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sure. Seema, I know that you read a lot of books. What do you have any book recommendations for us? Like both testing need not necessarily be from testing or outside of testing. Any recommendations?
There's loads of books I read very often. So testing related, I would say Explore It is really good. Leading Quality is for anybody, and it's really, really good. Lately, I read Hitchhiking Guide to Load Testing, a small, very small book, but you understand a lot about load testing from how gaming works. It's been written really well. It's been written in very simple, efficient manner. So you'll enjoy reading that book too. DevOps Handbook, again, gives a good understanding of how our processes and work, and how we can evolve our DevOps pipelines and processes at work. Scaling Teams is another book I enjoyed while I was scaling teams. Phoenix Project, Unicorn Project are some of the other books. Non-testing, I would say Whoever Tells the Best Story Wins by Annette Simmons is good. Lean Startup, good. Humor Seriously, I was talking about this earlier as well, where we take our work and what we do very, very seriously. No smiles at work. No, you have to be serious about what you're saying. You don't. You can have the humor at work as well. But yes, there's a thin line which you have to be conscious about. And as far as it is, we'll enjoy working and there is humor. So that's another book I really liked reading.
Great. One question is, what are the challenges and rewards of being a tester according to you?
Challenge. Challenge of being a tester. I'd say it's like beware of Cassandra curse, where you keep saying there's a bug, there's a bug, there's a bug, or this is not working correctly, and no one is believing you, or don't release because the quality is not great, and no one listens to you. So Cassandra's curse is one of the challenges, I would say. So this is where, again, communication, whether written, spoken, however that is, needs to be really good so that it is best understood by other people. And rewards is good. You feel a sense of satisfaction when customers start using it, and there's less questions, less issues, bugs coming from production. You feel good about it, so that's satisfying as well. I didn't find it satisfying when I raised a lot of bugs, but it could be for some people. I'm not sure. Challenge another way would be like a Tantalus punishment in the Greek philosophy, where you promise something but you never get it. You can be in such situations sometimes, and that's probably a challenge as well.
Okay, great. Seema, you also do mentoring and coaching, so do you have some mentorship tips, or how can testers reach you? Will you be open to giving some mentorship or coaching tips to them? or where can they reach you?
Yeah. So I used to do a lot of mentoring and coaching just for within my team previously, and then after being certified, I've extended it, and I used to mentor just when people approached me previously. Now I'm part of ADP List. So if you go to ADP List website and search for my name, Seema Prabhu, you will find me there, and you can book a slot based on the times that are there in the calendar, and then we can catch up and discuss how we can help in the problems that you're facing. So more than welcome. If any of you are interested, please go to ADP List and search for me.
Great. So Seema, let's take one question from Brijesh, which is, as testers, we are in the business of feedback. So how do we take feedback correctly and how to give the right feedback?
Feedback should be given regularly, not it shouldn't be one that is given when you're doing a performance review, which is once a year or maybe once a quarter or half yearly. Regular feedback is important. It can be both negative and positive feedback. Positive feedback is good when you're talking about where the organization is headed, what value they are adding, and how you're showing improvement. All this is good because it gives the person confidence to grow and know that the effort that they are adding is being seen and it is valued by the organization as well. So that's good feedback. A negative feedback is also good, but it should be given in a way that it's not just putting off someone. But negative feedback will also help the person learn about how they need to grow, or what gaps are there, and this will help them over a period of time. It will help them grow in confidence about what it is that they're good at, they're bad at, and have sufficient setup in place, or the process for process improvement. It could be training, it could be buddy up with somebody and learn some other way. But feedback is important if you want the team to be growing and growing healthy.
Great. So I think we've taken a lot of questions. Do we have more questions? Feel free to ping them on the Q&A bar. We'd also like you to take a look at Testsigma if you're interested in a no-code open source test automation platform. And do give us your feedback about the webinar and also the tools. We're open to feedback. So you can either write to webinar@testsigma.com or support@testsigma.com. Okay, so if you have any more questions, do let us know. And it was great having you, Seema, and everyone. Some of us have joined on a Saturday. So very rest of the weekend, very happy rest of the weekend to everybody. And thanks a lot, Seema, for joining and sharing a lot of good information and insights. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Seema.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And to Testsigma as well as you, Lavanya, it was really nice working with you. And to all the audience as well for some really great questions and feedback as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone. So we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.